one of the most profoundly disturbing films to tackle the theme of marital loneliness. Polish director Andrzej Żuławski's Possession has become a veritable cult classic since its initial release in 1981.
Well, I think what you want to do to Bob is just...
inhuman. So what you're doing must be human.
While it's a masterclass in directorial finesse and full-body acting, so much of what has fueled the film's cult status has been its comparative cinematic obscurity. Effectively banned in the UK upon its release, coming across a copy of Possession seemed all but impossible for casual viewers for decades. When cinephiles were lucky enough to come across a copy, it was typically a heavily edited 81-minute cut, as opposed to the 124-minute version that originally premiered at the Cannes Film Festival.
You are not different from anyone else. We are all the same.
Although the intricacies of the film's plot are best experienced totally unspoiled, a brief synopsis is nonetheless warranted. When Mark, played by an early career Sam Neill, returns to his Berlin home from a secret espionage mission, he finds that his wife Anna, portrayed by Isabelle Adjani, is suddenly demanding a divorce. Heartbroken and dumbfounded, Mark begins to uncover the increasingly disturbing reasons behind Anna's decision. She begins to neglect their son Bob, leaving him alone unattended for long stretches of time while she's romancing with her new lover, Heinrich. After a while, Mark begins covertly following her around, realizing she spends most of her free time in a run-down, abandoned apartment building. What he finds enclosed within the mold-splotched walls defies scientific explanation, and it effectively ramps up the horror plot inherent to Possession. When the film finally hit UK theaters nearly a year after its Cannes premiere, it was immediately deemed unfit for public consumption. Yet the film's reputation as a demented descent into madness has kept viewers hooked on the prospect of coming across a copy. Luckily, Metrograph's recent 4K restoration has made this once unlikely dream into a tangible reality. Take that, censors.
I used to be afraid of you, but I don't think I am anymore.
But while so many so-called video nasties have fallen into obscurity, what's kept Possession so enticing over 40 years later? While Possession might be largely relegated to the realm of horror cult classic, it was in competition for the prestigious Palme d'Or at the 1981 edition of the Cannes Film Festival. While the prize was ultimately granted to fellow Polish filmmaker Andrzej Wajda's Man of Iron, Possession left the festival far from empty-handed. Lead actress Isabelle Adjani won the Best Actress award, which was concurrently granted to Adjani for her role in the Merchant Ivory film Quartet. And it's easy to see why. Her completely unhinged, manic performance is a key factor behind the film's success. At the very least, a specific subway scene immediately comes to mind whenever one thinks back on the scariest scenes in the film. In fact, Possession and Adjani's performance racked up prizes as it traveled from festival to festival and eventually hit the awards circuit. Clearly, though, the critical praise directed at Possession was nowhere near enough to defy the pearl-clutching tendencies of the National Viewers and Listeners Association in Britain during the 1980s. During the widespread conservative moral panic of the 80s, defined by Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher in the UK, a ton of horror and exploitation films were subject to censorship. Colloquially dubbed video nasties, the films were said to portray violence and gore so senseless it could potentially traumatize young viewers. Of course, brandishing a film as a video nasty also gave the films a mystifying power. Curious viewers would intentionally seek out banned titles such as Sam Raimi's The Evil Dead and Wes Craven's The Last House on the Left. Unfortunately, Andrzej Żuławski's Possession would never reach the same level of sought-after notoriety. Namely because even in the US, the film was never released in its full 124-minute glory.
I'm away from you. I think of you as an animal or a woman possessed, and then I see you again and all this disappears.
For some reason, when the film was finally released on US screens, distributor Limelight International Films opted to release an 81-minute cut of the film, meaning that a third of Possession, mostly plot points related to the character's dissolving marriage, was effectively missing. The few critics who managed to catch a screening of the heavily tailored release totally panned it. An understandable backlash considering how far it strayed from Żuławski's original vision. With no comprehensive home release for Possession available in the US or the UK, the film became a white whale for many horror aficionados. After all, Italian special effects artist Carlo Rambaldi, who worked on Alien and E.T., was involved in creating the film, so something impressive and outright horrifying is all but guaranteed. However, with its lack of the intense buildup of mutual marital disintegration included in the plot, the gimmicky 1983 limelight release just didn't scratch the itch. Thankfully, possession has become much easier to, well, possess as time has passed. Despite its censorship in the UK, the film was released uncut on DVD and VHS by American production company Anchor Bay Entertainment in 2000. The film then became available on Blu-ray in 2014, when Mondo Vision issued a standard special edition of which only 2,000 copies were made available. Most recently, Metrograph released a 4K restoration to honor the film's 40th anniversary. It premiered in its newfound glory at Fantastic Fest in 2021, before expanding to theaters across the country in October, perfect for an intense Halloween viewing session. But don't let the spooky season dominate as the one and only time to sit down and play horror classic catch-up. Possession is also now available to stream on Metrograph at home. So go ahead and give it a watch, if you think that you can stomach it.
It doesn't hurt.
Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more SlashFilm videos about your favorite TV shows and movies are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.